Okay, so welcome everybody. This is the first Wednesday of December. Can you believe it? It's December. I can't get over that. So welcome to the back of Tim J. Leary Studios and Gallery. We're in the back here, and tonight I'm going to be talking about landscapes. So that's something that's a little different. Sounds like it might be a little different for me, but it really isn't, because what I'm going to be talking about is how I make them abstract. So, but I always start with my libation. And some of these images are going to be Irish images, so I have something Irish to drink here as I talk tonight. So cheers. With my Irish whiskey. So what I've done is I've brought together a bunch of stuff. Some of this is old. Most of this is old. I haven't done a piece like this in a while, but there are a couple of reasons why this topic has come up this month. One is that I'm getting ready to start a landscape painting that's an abstraction of a landscape of the Palm Springs Mountains. I wish I was better at knowing the names of the mountains, but it's a view that I have seen for many years, and that I have sketched several times when visiting before we lived here. And so the painting I'm going to do, and I'll talk about that later, is based on sketches that I did years ago of the mountains in Palm Springs that I did from our deck at the time. But also the docents of the Palm Springs Art Museum are in the middle of a class, and we had a class on Agnes Pelton and a discussion in our small group the other day about Agnes Pelton's landscapes. She did two kinds of paintings. Some were called transcendental. They were a reference to her spiritual experience, trying to relate, I think, sort of ethereal emotions. It seems to me that's how I would translate it, not religious stories of any kind, but more of her feelings. I think they're very interesting, but they also appeared like landscapes to me. So landscapes, oh my God, well, I've done stuff like that. So I always like to look to what other artists have done. So let me come over here, and that's another reference. This is some older work. This says Cezanne and Beyond. I wish I could have seen that particular exhibit, but I didn't. So this is a landscape by Cezanne, by Paul Cezanne. And he is softening his lines and his colors in here. And that's what's kind of interesting. He's got a realistic depiction of the items, but his vision is softened. And we have also another one of his works that's a little more defined, I would say. Take that out so I don't have to save that page for future. But still quite beautiful. His colors and his use of the paint and depiction of colors and his palettes were quite beautiful. Let's turn again and see what I've got. So these are getting a little more abstract. Now, now we're talking. These are also landscapes, and I've used the term in my note of these being not just landscapes, but outdoor scenes. So I think that that's what you can say. This one here is more of a mountainscape, and this one a little more of a view of something architectural. So I thought that was interesting and fun. So this is work from about 100 years ago, and so Kandinsky came up in our conversation on Monday, and he did work that was similar to this kind of style, maybe about 10 years before these were painted. By doing these large blocks of color and by softening his application and not being so tight as to trying to make it look like like a photograph. So the Impressionists and Post-Impressionists were moving away from realistic interpretation, and many people believe it's because, why did they need to? Because now we had photography for that. So I don't know if that's true, but it's a really nice thought. And the next I wanted to show is another favorite of mine. I missed a great exhibit, I understand, at the Palm Springs Art Museum of Richard Diebenkorn's work. I love this Ocean Park series. And the reason I pulled this out to show is because I see, it's like, what was that movie? I See Dead People. I see architecture here. And I do believe that he was inspired by the architecture of Ocean Park. If you look at this photograph here, it's small, I know, but if you look at this photograph and compare it to the way he divides his space here, and also to the way he does the colors, because they look weathered. And if you've ever spent time in a beach town, that's what happens to paint over time to those. We have, oh yes, Stu Berger is watching tonight. He's not here on the camera. We have Christine Jacobs on the camera tonight. Stu is home with Eli, who ran into a cactus this afternoon. This one I selected, or I pulled out, because it reminds me a little bit of those aerial views of fields, farm fields. I mean, this is still Ocean Park, and I don't know what his inspiration was here, but his colors have kind of a beachy feel. And that's what that looks like to me. So who knows if that's what was going on for him, if he saw something that made him think that. And then a little more on that same theme of, is this architecture? This looks like a window up here in this one, this drawing up here. And here is a similar thing. It looks like a construction site or something to me. Mostly though, what's interesting and what a lot of these artists were doing is that the medium is the paint. The important part is what they're doing is, how does the canvas, more so than what their subject matter is. Their subject matter is not necessarily their picture, their subject matter is the application of the paint. So interesting. Fun, I think fun stuff to look at. Next step. Let me step into a little bit of my own stuff. I have some work from when I was in Ireland, and you know, poor guys. I talk about this all the time. People are tired of hearing it, I suppose. But this, I'm going to enlarge that. Full screen. So if you look at this, this is a, and I'll set it right here because the painting is right behind it. It's a field I walked by when I was there for those months, down one of the roads. And this little collection of rocks and these trees growing out of it had sort of a magical feeling to it. And so when an artist does something like this, they make changes to the scene that they're looking at. They don't paint the scene exactly the way it is. They take things out and they highlight certain things. So this painting here, directly behind it, is my depiction. It was a quick depiction of this particular scene. Now, I don't know how well you can see the tree branches that are coming up in here, but that's what's depicted up there. And these rocks. I was fascinated by the shapes of the rocks, but I wanted to simplify it and not be, you know, as precise. I wanted to capture, someone wrote in the guest book when I had my my open studio / show at the end of this residency, I had gotten to the heart of things, the heart of the matter. And that was what I was hoping to do, that I'm stripping it down, trying to get to the essence of what I'm looking at and to depict the feeling of it more than the details of it. And this, I don't know how I can find a picture of that. I'm not sure if I can. But this is also from that. I will find pictures like that. There's some small flowers. I was there in the spring and there were many tiny little wildflowers in gorgeous colors that were growing and popping up between the limestone in the fields that were covered with limestones. And I'll show you some of that. And so that's one of them. And that's based on a particular something there. And I will, let's see. Now, what am I doing? Here we go. Now it's moving. So you can kind of see here a little bit. Here's a field of limestone, and there's some water behind it. That's Galway Bay. And the grasses are growing up in between. So in the spring, also wildflowers come up. And that's the kind of scene that inspired this piece that's over here. I simplified it. The grass became the green spaces. I did add one or two little green sprouts popping up. But some of these rocks, and hopefully I'll find more pictures of them to show, had these little holes. And basically, I'm sure that these rocks, even if they were shaped like that, which they're not quite, they're not the same today because they're totally affected by weather and the rain, the constant rains there. Let me come back. All right. So there's another one. Maybe it would help if I put on the right glasses, wouldn't it? That's not the one. I'm going to have to break down and put on the glasses, aren't I? I thought I'd be able to find it, this album of photos that I put together. And I looked at this afternoon, so I know they're here, right? Huh. Okay, since I'm not finding it, I'm just going to go to this. Michael and Marcia took a trip with us, and we went to the Burren and looked at some of these things. Here's a field that reminds me of this here. So this painting here. Excellent. Another favorite of mine from that trip, and then I'll one more after that, and I'll move on, is this diptych. This is from a field, and this shape shows up in this panel of this. All of these shapes actually were things that I saw and sketched, and then I put together to create that. I'm going to give one more try at finding this thing because I want to show a picture of a field. Here it is. Okay. This picture here. It's a field I walked through in a section called the Burren Way, and really beautiful day. And I wanted to create an abstract depiction of it. Came up with this. I'll take it down and I'll hold it beside it. And if you look, you'll see this line here is this row of bushes that goes along there. Look, it gets a little bigger there. Here's a little bit from that tree and from that mountain that's off to the side. This crop of bushes became this red shape here, and this brown shape, these stones became that brown shape. So there it is, just floating on the canvas. But to me, when I look at it, I see this field. And I remember that day of walking through that field. It was a beautiful day in May of 2012. And it was a gorgeous day. And so I remember it's now. Okay, I think that's all the Ireland stuff. No, I take that back. I have some drawings over here, but I think I'm gonna move away from that for a second, because I also wanted to talk about some of these Palm Springs things, the Palm Springs landscapes and inspirations that I have. And I've got a few of them here. This one, actually, which looks a little architectural, I think, intentionally so, has this line of mountains here. And these that's a shape that came from a sketch. So before we moved here and we came to visit where we stayed in our condo there, I would sit on the deck and I would draw the mountains. So chances are it's the same mountains that we're talking about. And so this line is, especially this part in the blue, is drawn from real life. So that's what I try to do. I try to take something that I saw in nature and then go from there. And I took it and set it up here. So these slabs are meant to represent a slab of a mountain for me, and placed in that setting. Another one that's a little more direct is also from that scene, the same deck, a different direction, and that palm tree, which someone said to me, "Oh, you don't want to divide your field of vision out by your canvas." Well, yeah, but it turned out okay. So these are, if you're from Palm Springs or you have been here, we have very dramatic morning shadows on the mountains, sharp shapes that are cast by the low angle of the sun. It's really quite beautiful. And I've been getting to see that again lately as I'm getting up earlier, having a dog in our life. And then these two over here are also Palm Springs. This is the same sort of a thing. I've always liked this one. It's kind of unfortunate where the image landed on the canvas. I think it might have been better had it been higher, but then again, maybe not. But these lines all represent something from a sketch. You know, maybe in this case, because it's so much, I've added to it. Maybe it's more than one sketch that, and different pieces of things that came together as I was doing it. Something like this will emerge into in my sketchbook in a colored pencil format. And that's what I'm going to be working on here. Let me check my time, if I can. I got plenty of time. Good. So it's this sketch is the one that I'll be using for my new painting. This is the sketch. Again, you know, it's possible that the same sketch generated that painting, but I'm going to keep this line in particular across the top. It's important to me that that remains, and then I will change it up a bit, and I'm going to put it on a big old canvas, which isn't stretched yet, but it's going to be a big one. It's 5.5 feet wide, as tall as me, taller than the lovely lady in whose house it will be. But this is what I'm going to do. So I have to still put this thing together, which I'm looking forward to. I think that'll be fun and satisfying. All right. So I wanted to also show some of David Hockney's work because he was doing, um, I saw this exhibit a few times, the bigger exhibition. It was at the De Young Museum in San Francisco, and I went back a couple of times because it was so fascinating. He did these massive, um, massive paintings, like this one, where he divided his picture plane into these huge canvases. They were all pretty big. Um, each canvas, I think, is 72 by 144. I think that's right. These were the size of the wall. The other things that he did they were like this. They were 6 and 12 canvases, huge things. But he was playing with perspective a little bit in a couple of different ways. He was doing it with cameras as well, talking about perspective drawing in particular as not being these techniques, the drafting techniques of perspective drawing that you see now are not completely accurate. They are a good depiction of depth in a plane on a flat surface, but they're not really how we see things because we don't really see just one vantage point, one vanishing point rather. And so that's what he was playing with by taking a scene like this and breaking it up the way he did. Things don't completely match. They come close, but they don't completely match. And he also did these beautiful sketches, charcoal on paper of, he would go, these are in England, he would go to the same place and sketch in different seasons of the year. I think they're someone who has been doing art for as many decades as he has. The refinement of these drawings is really remarkable, I think, and really lovely. He also did, which at the time I saw this and was fascinated with, he did these works on his iPad, and they were really remarkable. The exhibit had huge depictions of huge reproductions of these drawings hanging on the wall. Some people will call these iPad paintings, but I don't like to call them paintings because there's no paint involved. But they were really cool. I thought they were great. So more landscapes and more landscapes for him. So I pulled out a couple of drawings that I did in Ireland also. That's why I was thinking I'm going to come back to these. This, of course, there was stuff behind it. I drew only that part. I spent lots of time working on that. It was a lot of fun to do. And this one, actually, there's a picture somewhere of this. These were taller stones. And there was a lot of grass around them. I moved them around a little bit in this depiction, and I didn't show the fact that there was water, a body of water behind them. So, and then I guess I can, since I've been showing everything here, this one, which is the picture I put on Facebook with the announcement, is also something that, like I was doing in the past, I did this thing and then I put it in the closet and it sat there for years, and then I came back to it and I started working on it again, and now it's reached this point. I finally do think that it's a finished piece now, and it could also be those same mountains. There's a particular shape where one of them reaches a sharp peak up here that I'm still playing with and still exploring. So, what time do we have here?
5 minutes.
Just about 5 more minutes according to this thing. So those are the things. I was just gonna, we can step out here a little bit. With the holidays coming, get in touch with me. I'm going to be putting some of these small collages on my website probably in the next day or two. So it's timjleary.com, you already know that. And they look something like this. These are the newest ones here that are on the table. And I have some others out there. I want to put them out there because they're more reasonably priced than some of the larger pieces. We can step out here. I don't always like to come out here because of the echo, but there's more going on. So I'll be out here for a little while tonight. If you're nearby and you want to come and visit me, say hello. So I have some more collages over here. We have some of Stu Berger's photography. Here is, I don't know how the lighting is here, but we have pictures of Copenhagen and some pictures of Venice in here as well. If you're nearby, we still have T's beautiful work up here. Some more of his photography. And Rosemary's work, her emotions on canvas. That's T we're looking at. That's Rosemary's emotions on canvas. I think these are really intriguing. And Richard Dodds over here has changed out his work just yesterday, so these are beautiful photographs, also reasonably priced. And his website is listed on my website. If you go to the What's Happening at the Gallery page, you'll see what his website is, and you can go and visit that if you want to talk to him about his work. So I think that's it for tonight. So I hope that you'll come see me. If you're in town, we'll be here for a little while, probably until 7:30, depending on how many people show up. I've seen a couple of people walking by, and I hope to be in touch and see you soon. All right. Good night.